We begin the Gemara today on the bottom of Pehei Amud Beis, 6 lines from the bottom of the page, where it says, Ella Omar Rav Huna B'Rei Rav Yeshua. So we're in the middle of a discussion of the concept of being makdish, a dava shalei ba'laylam, or making a neder on something that's lei ba'laylam. What are the examples the Gemara spoke about? So the Gemara says there's a contradiction here in what Shmuel said. On one hand, Shmuel says a husband that comes and is makdish, his wife's income that doesn't belong to him, and he wants to be makdish it, that the hektish should take effect after she passes away, and then he inherits her. So Shmuel says, we paskin like Rabbi Yochanan HaSandler that says it doesn't take effect. It's like bal olam. You can't be makdish something that is not in your possession yet. On the other hand, when it comes to a neder, it said in our Mishnah that if a person if a isha that is makes a neder that her income should be also to her husband. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says, right now the neder is not going to take effect because she owes it to her husband. But still, the husband should nullify this neder because if he divorces her, then it will take effect. So over here you see that you have her income, which doesn't exist yet, and you have the husband, which is not her, it's a different person, and she's asserting something on her husband that doesn't exist in the world. And Shmuel says, we paskin like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, yes, she can make this neder on her income that's not in the world yet. How is that possible? So the Gemara tried to give different explanations for this. The Gemara refuted all of them. And now here, the Gemara brings from Rav Huna B'Rei Rav Yeshua. Okay, I read this yesterday already, but let's start again. There you see. Elam Rav Huna B'Rei Rav Yeshua. So Rav Huna B'Rei Rav Yeshua says as follows. But Oimeres, the case over here is the reason why she can make this neder that's not ba'olam yet, because what she's saying is yikdushu yodai li'oiseyen. She's not making the neder on the actual income that's not here in the world yet. What she's saying is my hands that produce this income, I'm being makdish the hands that create this income. Okay, now two things to point out. First of all, just a detail here. The Gemara uses the term yikdushu, even though we're talking about a neder. But the Gemara means that just like regarding kachim, we're asking here a stira between a neder and kachim. So the Gemara is using the term of kachim, even though this is coming to explain the neder of the Mishnah. Okay, so the same thing would be regarding the neder. The point is, she's making a neder saying that her hands should be also to the husband for this that the hand could produce, for this that the hands could produce the income. In other words, she's not making her actual physical hands also to her husband. That's not the point of the neder. And on the other hand, she's not making the income also because the income is not here yet. But this is what's called yodei lo iseyen, meaning the fact that the hands produce this income, the hands will be also to my husband for this aspect that it produces the income. Or the lashon that it says in the Rishonim as an example for this is like a person that says that this field for the peiros that the field produces, it should be also to you, not the field itself, but the field should be also for the peiros that it produces. Right? Same thing over here. Her hands produce the income, so she's asking the hands for the income that it produces. Okay, so what's the point that Rav Huna B'Rei Rav Yeshua is trying to say? So the Gemara says, the Yadayim ha'isnu ba'olam. So over here, the neder will take effect, or if it would be a hektish, the hektish would take effect, is because the hands are here. So even though you're not being makdish the actual hands, but you're being makdish the hands for this, that it produces the fruits. So the hands are here ba'olam. So the neder could take effect. But the Gemara asks on this, that can't be what the Mishnah is saying. V'chi amra hachi. But if she says that the hands for what it produces, for the income it produces, should become aser, but kacha, would you say that it becomes hektish, or that the neder takes effect? V'mishabdin yadei lebal. The hands are subjugated, or belong to the husband. This that the hands produce income, presently she's married. So it belongs to the husband. Our question comes back, how could she do this? The neder could only take effect in the future. So he's saying, no, she's being makdish her hands, but her hands right now, which have power to produce income, belong to the husband. So how could she say that the hands now should become aser if it's already meshubah to the husband? So the Gemara answers, are you right? So we're going to have to say, the amra lichi migrisha, that my hands will become aser to the husband for the income it produces. And when should that take effect? When I become divorced. Okay, so now the Gemara says, if so, the question comes back. So hashta mi is le migrishe. So now she's not divorced yet. So if so, umimai dichi amra hachi mahanya. How do you know if she says this that the iser or the hektish will take effect? Again, we're coming back to the original discussion here. This is a neder or a hektish and a davar shaloi ba la'olam. So what are you saying? That she's being makdish her hands for the income. Okay, so the physical hands are here. Yeah, but the income that the hand produces is not here. So therefore, you could only be makdish that when she's divorced. So and when she's divorced is not ba'ilam yet. So how could this hektish take effect? Or this neder take effect? So we're sort of back to the original question. But as you see over here in the Lashon of the Gemara, how does the Gemara ask this question? How do you know that if she says this would work? The Gemara does not ask the question that it's for sure not going to work. The Gemara doesn't say that it's a dova shalei balaylam, like it asked before. Why doesn't the Gemara ask that? Because as we'll see in the continuation of the Gemara, we have a big discussion here right now between a lot of Amiraim. It's not so clear whether this is something that is ba'ilam or whether this is something that's not ba'ilam. Why? Because on one hand, she's trying to be makdish the peiris of her hands, the income of her hands. The income of her hands is not ba'ilam yet. That's only after she's divorced she could be makdish that. So that's not ba'ilam. But on the other hand, she's not being makdish just the income. She's being makdish the hands for the income that it produces. The hands are here. So it's to think about this in the more broader sense, not only regarding hands and income, same thing regarding a property or a field and the fruits that it produces. If I'm going to be makdish this property for the fruits that it produces in a later time, when the fruits come out. So on one hand, the actual guf of the karka is here now. On the other hand, the peiris are not here now. So is this ba'al or not? So the Gemara sort of is questioning this. The Gemara is not saying for sure that it's not ba'al because the physical hands are here already. But if it's the physical hands for the peiris that it produces, so there's two ways that to look at it. The peiris are not ba'ilam. So that's the Gemara's question. How do you know that it's going to work? So as I said, the Gemara is going to bring various opinions to try to find some kind of an example to determine whether this is ba'ilam or not. So the Gemara, Rab Ila says, I'll give you an example that will prove that this is already considered to be enough ba'ilam. What happens in a case where a person says to his friend, this property that I am now selling to you, when I buy it back from you, taktish, then I will be makdish it. So right now he's the owner. It's fully in his possession. He has the ability to be makdish it. But he's going to sell it though. And then when he sells it, he has no power and rights over it whatsoever. And he's saying, when I buy it back from you, then I'll be able to be makdish it. Miloi kacha. Doesn't he have the power to be makdish it? Because right now he's the owner. So even if in between there's going to be a time that it's not going to be his, and the hektish is only going to take effect later after he buys it back, and in between it wasn't his bichlal, but nevertheless he has now the power to be makdish it. So the Gemara is saying, if over there you logically say, and Abila is saying this from Svara, if you say logically over there that the hektish does take effect because now you have ownership over it, we can say that over here regarding this case, when she's trying to be makdish her hands for the peiris that it produces, which is the income, even though the income is not here yet, but the physical hands are here right now, so the hektish takes effect. The Ran explains that this example that Rav Ila is using is not exactly the same as the example we're talking about over here. But still, he's trying to show you that hektish could take effect even when it's not completely ba'ilam. In this case that Rav Ila speaks about, right now he's the full owner. Elamai, there's going to be a time period where he's not going to be the owner at all. He's going to sell the entire property, the guf and the peiris. He's not going to be the owner at all. And the hektish is going to take effect after he completely sold it. And he's going to buy it back, right? But there's going to be a time that it's not his at all. Over here, it's different. Over here, the hands, the actual hands are her hands. She has power over her hands. There's never a time that the hands are not hers. But it's the hands for the peiris. It's the hands for the income that it produces. So therefore over here what the Gemara is saying is, and a chanami over here, there's a certain chesaron that the income is not hers at all right now, but at least the hands are hers right now. So maybe just like over there, there's the chesaron of the fact that she's totally selling off the property, or it's not she, whoever it is, that he's totally settling off the property, but I say that since presently it is yours, you can be makdish it. Over here, presently it's not yours, but at least the hands is mine. The income is not mine, but the hands that are producing the income is mine. So maybe that's enough that the hektish should take effect over here. That was the svara of Rav Ila. But on that, Rav Yirmiyah asks, Maskav Rav Yirmiyah, it's not the same thing. Me dummy, how could you compare them? In this example that you said, a person says, a property that I will sell to you, hashta biyadehi. Over here, right now, he's the full owner of this property, both the property itself, the peiris, everything. He's totally his. Isha, but on the other hand, when it comes to this woman that's trying to be makdish, the income of her hands, biyada lahakdish maisi yadeha, that income, which are sort of the paytas that come from the hands. That income is hers right now. That income is not hers right now. Yeah, the hands are hers. You're giving me an example of a case that a person is being makdish, a property, and he says that the hekdesh will take effect later after he sells it and buys it back, but presently it's fully his. Over here, the hands that she's being makdish, again?
The hands are hers.
The hands are hers, but she's not trying to be makdish the hands though. She's trying to be in makdish the income, the hands for the income that comes out of it. And the income that comes out of it is not hers at all. See, even though, there is a certain mila of the fact that the hands are hers, and over there, regarding the property, once it's sold off, the property is not his at all. But on the other hand, though, she's not trying to be makdish the hands itself. She's trying to be makdish the hands just for the income. So therefore, Rabbi Yirmiyah says, you have to look at the income. The income is not here at all right now. She's already married to this husband, and it's like she sold it off already. And therefore, he finishes off his question and says, if you want to understand whether over here the hekdesh should work, compare it to the following case. Holoi dami, over here when she's trying to be makdish her hands for the income, it would be compared to this. Person tells his friend, this field that I already sold you. It's out of my property already. When I buy it back from you, takdish, the hekdesh should take effect. Mi kocha, could you be makdish this? You already sold it off. You can't be makdish something after it's totally out of your property. Trying to be makdish the income of this hands, even though you're saying that the hands should be hektish for the income, but it doesn't matter. You're trying to be makdish the income. The income is out of this woman's possession. It belongs to the husband. It's like you already sold the property completely. Ask if Rav Papa asks, no, that it's not completely compared to this case of when you completely sold off your property. I mean, Rav Papa is sort of coming in over here in between. Right? And he explains as follows. Mi dami, how could you compare a isha trying to be makdish her hands for the income to a person that's trying to be makdish a property that he sold? Gabezvina, when you sold your property, psikim sayu. You sold the property completely. You have nothing to do with the property anymore. Not the physical property, not the fruits that it produces. It's out of your possession. Gabe isha, but when it comes to a woman, mi psikim milsa, could you say that she's completely detached to what she's trying to be makdish? She's trying to be makdish the hands for the income that it produces. So true, the guf of the hands is hers and the income is not hers. So there is an aspect of what she's trying to be makdish that's hers, and there's an aspect of what she's trying to be makdish that's not hers. So how can you compare it to a person that's trying to be makdish a property that was totally sold off? Like I said, so Rav Papa is like coming in between these two opinions before, Rav Ilah and Rav Yirmiyah. Rav Papa doesn't agree to Rav Ilah that compared a woman trying to be makdish the income of her hands to a person that presently owns the property fully, owns the property with the paytas, because over here she only owns her hands, not the income of her hands. But on the other hand, what Rav Papa is saying to Rav Yirmiyah is, your example of when the property was totally sold off is also not a good example, because over here she owns at least the hands that produces the income. So therefore, Halei Dami, he gives another example. Halei Dami ela la'im l'chavere. What our case is, would be compared to the case where a person says to his friend, this property that I gave you as a mashkin, as a collateral, right? For example, you borrowed money from someone, you don't have what to pay him, so instead you give him a mashkin, you give him a property that he could use. So you tell him, this property that I gave you as a mashkin, when I will redeem it from you, I'll pay up the loan and I'll redeem this property from you, taktish. So then the hektish should take effect. Mile kacha, wouldn't the hektish take effect over here? So what's the svara he's saying? Over here, when you give a property as a mashkin, the guf of the property itself, the actual property is still yours. You didn't sell it. You're just giving it to this person to use, the paytas, to get the value, to get paid up for his loan. So this seemingly is the perfect example for what we're talking about regarding her trying to be makdish her hands for the income. The physical hands are hers. The income is not hers. So she could be makdish it because the hands are hers. Just like over here regarding this property, we say the same thing. If you are the owner of this property, elamai is someone else that has now the rights to use the paytas of the property, doesn't take away my ability to be makdish this property because it's still mine. Okay, so therefore, that would explain how she could be makdish or make a neder on the income that comes from her hands, even at this time now. Okay, so but the Gemara says it's still not a good comparison. It's midami. How could you compare this case of giving your field, your property as someone for a collateral to the case of the woman and her hands and the income of her hands? Sade, by the case of this property, at any time. If he decides to pay up his loan, he could redeem that property that he gave. It's always in your hands to redeem it. Isha biyada lizgarish. This woman, she has her hands, but the income is not hers because she's married. Does she any time have the option to get divorced and get back the rights of her Maisi Yadayim? She can't be mizgarish. So it's a very big difference. Over there, if it's in your hands, so even before you redeem that property, it's not mechusa maisi. You at any time you can go and take it back for yourself. A woman though, her income is stuck. She can't get it back. Okay, there is a discussion here in the Ran about this because the emphasis is not so pashut. When the Gemara asks this question, Isha b'yada is garish. So that's true. It's not b'yada Isha to decide that she wants to get divorced. That's always in the hands of the man. But there's another point though. If you remember, we learned in the Gemara in Ksubis, and I mentioned it before, a woman could say that I'm going to take my income, you're going to feed yourself, don't feed me, and therefore I want to keep my income. She does have an option to at any time say that she wants to keep her income. So l'chayre, even this income that does not belong to her, it is biyada at any time to say that she wants to keep her income. Right?
Use her ksuva as collateral also, even though it's not double.
Okay, could be. Okay, that's already getting more complicated. Kopanim, the Ran here discusses this, and the Ran says that when the Gemara here is talking about Maisi Yodel, she made a neder on Maisi Yodel, it's not only going on her income, but it's going on all kinds of things that a woman has to do for her husband. She serves her husband, she prepares his bed for him, and she feeds him and so on, which are things actually that she could not decide that she's not going to do. So therefore the Gemara is saying, Isha biyad is garish. This is not in her hands, b'chlal. So how could she be makdish? So the Gemara gives another example. So Rav Sheshe B'rei Darvidi says, Holei damye, what is our case compared to? When a person says to his friend, tells his friend that I'm giving you this mashkin for 10 years. So there's a set time, until 10 years. So he doesn't have the option to get it back before 10 years. Likeshev, then amimcha. When I will redeem it to you when it comes to 10 years, taktish, then the hektish should take effect. Milei kacha, won't the hektish take effect? Again, going with the logic that because the field itself belongs to the owner still, but this person is just using it for a payment of a loan. So even though there's a set time, so over here the hesber that the Rishayim say is mechus zman. It's just a matter of time, but it's lav mechus ma'aseh. But you're really the owner of this, so therefore the hektish could take effect. That's not called a davar shaloi ba la'olam. You are the owner, and with time you will get back those payers. So same thing over here with this Isha. Even though now she can't get out of this marriage, but nevertheless she could be makdish her hands for the Maisi Yadayim. But the Gemara continues and asks in this example as well, Maska Floravashi, this still is not a good example. Why? Midami. What kind of a comparison is this? Hasam Kayitz. Over there's a set time. 10 years is up and it goes back to the owner. Isha Mihisla Kitsusa. For a woman, is there an expiration date for her marriage? She's an Aisha says she's married. So there's no expiration date for this. So if so, how could she make a neder for the Maisi Yadayim? She's being makdish her hands for the Maisi Yadayim if the Maisi Yadayim is not in her control. It belongs to the husband, and she has no way to see herself out of this the situation that it belongs to the husband. So Elam Ravashi. So after all of this, Ravashi comes and says, Shani Kainemis, that a neder that we're talking about over here is different in the case of kachim. Our whole question was that we see regarding kachim, you can't be makdish something which is loy ba lo'ilam. But the Gemara says a neder is different. Why? Dechi kedushas haguf dami. Because when you're making a neder, the power of a neder is like when you're being makdish something and you're making the physical item itself holy. What this means is, we learned about this a few times, when it comes to being makdish something, there are two types of kachim. There's kachim which is called kedushas haguf. What does that apply to? For example, a carbon. The carbon itself, the physical carbon itself is kadosh and it has to be brought in the mizbeach. Once you makdish the behemah, you can't redeem it and it has to be brought in the mizbeach. And then there's something which is called kedushas damim. A person can be makdish any item in the world. Not that's going to be brought in the mizbeach, any item of the world, and you give it to the Beis HaMikdash. It be used for whatever they use it in the Beis HaMikdash. That's just the value, the money of it is hektish. Right? So therefore the Gemara is saying is, before when we said that you can't be makdish a davar shalei bala olam, that's been again to a hektish where you want to be makdish the value of it. When you're being makdish the guf of it itself, over here in this case, it will be chal on these hands, even though it's lei bala olam. But now let me just explain it, what this means. The Gemara is not retracting from the svara that it said before. Rav Huna B'rei Rav Yeshua that started off this whole discussion. What did Rav Huna B'rei Rav Yeshua say? She's not being makdish just the income. She's being makdish the hands for the income that it produces. What the Gemara is saying is, in this scenario, when she's being makdish the hands for the income that it produces, and it's not clear if this is bala olam or not, because on one hand, the physical hands are hers. On the other hand, the income that it produces belongs to the husband. It's meshubit to the husband. What the Gemara is saying is, the hektish is stronger than the shibud to the husband. That's how the Ran explains this. Okay, so we're not having charata of that, the way that Rav Huna ben Rav Yeshua explained it. We're just explaining how it could work. Okay, now the Gemara gives an example for this. Where do we see that Kedushas HaGuf is stronger than the shibud that the husband has, that it belongs to him? We learned this out from something that Rava said. The Amar Rava said, Hektish, Chametz, v'Shichra. These three things, Hektish, and we're talking about a Hektish of Kedushas HaGuf, and Chametz and Shichrur, Mafkiim midei shibud. So what is this talking about? When a person owes someone money, and he designates a specific item that will be where the person will collect his loan from. Right? So for example, a person has a shayr, an ox, and he says, you collect your loan from this ox. This is where your shibud will be from here. Okay, but what happens then if afterwards a person goes and he's makdish this behema for carbon, for the mizbeach? So Rav is saying that hektish will uproot the shibud, even though it's already meshubit to this person to collect. And so l'chayra, how could you go ahead and be makdish something which is meshubit for this person to collect this loan from it? The answer is hektish is stronger. Hektish will uproot that shibud, it'll become hektish. And that's a similar idea regarding chametz and shichrur. You owe money to a guy, and this chametz, and Pesach comes, and so this chametz is the place where this guy is going to collect his loan from you. But now, once Pesach comes and Pesach passes, it's chametz she'avar all over Pesach. You can't have an from this. You can't pay your loan from this chametz. So even though it's meshubid for this loan, you made up, this is where you're going to collect your loan from, but chametz is an isser that's on the guf of this chametz itself, and it takes off that shibud. It becomes asr, and you can't collect his loan. So again, you see an isser that takes effect on this object. After there was a previous shibud, it removes that shibud. It's stronger than the shibud. And the same thing regarding shichrur. Shichrur means you owned a slave, and you tell the person that you owe money to, you're going to collect your loan from this slave. And then what do? You just free the slave. So now that's it. You changed his body. He's not your slave anymore. So because you changed his body, it removes the shibud. What's the point we see from all of these examples? When there's a shibud to a person that you owe money to, if you change the physical entity of this object, that it's stronger than the shibud itself. So the same thing over here, the ma'isi yadayim of the isha is meshubet to the husband, but nevertheless, if she's going to come and be makdish her hands for her ma'isi yadayim, or kainamis actually, sorry, we're talking about kainamis, or something which affects a isser on the guf of the hands itself, or the hands for the ma'isi yadayim, even though the ma'isi yadayim is meshubet to the husband, but the neder will remove that shibud, and it will take effect. Okay, so now the Gemara asks on this, Ihachi, if that's the case, you're telling me that the neder is stronger than the present shibud of the husband, so lamali shami yigrishena. What did it say in the Mishnah? Rabbi Yechon ben Nuni said in the Mishnah that now the neder doesn't take effect because it's meshubet to the husband. When does it take effect? When he divorces her. But now you're telling me that kainamis is so strong that it could remove the neder even in the present. It's stronger than the shibud. So the Gemara answers, you're right. Tani, you have to learn in the Mishnah, v'oid, that this is actually a second point. V'oid sham yigrishena. Another point here is that when he divorces her, then the neder will take effect. Why is the Mishnah adding this v'oid? What is it saying? What the Mishnah is saying is as follows. Minat Tayreh, the neder is stronger than the shibud to the husband, and therefore the neder can take effect right now. Now, even if you're going to come and say that the Chachamim strengthened this shibud that she has to her husband, even stronger than the shibud that Rava spoke about. Rava said when you have a shibud to a malveh, so then if you change the guf of this item, then the shibud falls off. But maybe you're going to say that Chachamim went and strengthened their takana, that the shibud that a woman has with her income to the husband is so strong that even if you change the guf of it by making it aser, it will not remove the shibud. So that the Mishnah adds, but Shemi Yigrishena. Shemi, after the divorce, this that Chachamim strengthened this takana is not applicable then, because they only strengthened this takana for when they're married. But once he divorces her, so then it shows that really the Chachamim's takana doesn't apply here for this. And then it shows that really the neder took effect from the beginning. And therefore, the husband is going to have to nullify this type of a neder. Okay, that's the conclusion of the inyan. Okay, there's the next Mishnah. I think we'll leave it for the Hemshech because it goes into the new inyan, the next Amid. Okay.